The human condition is such that all have a need to feel special, a fallacy that causes the opposite effect, making us less aware than taking a realistic view of life. In the course of modern human history, there have been several billion people who have lived, loved, sacrificed, and died in pursuit of their goals. It is a mistake to assume that there is even a single experience or thought that is original. An ethnocentric view is partially to blame. The belief that one's own culture is the one correct way to live, and all others are inferior. Most people have not heard the term before, and some lack the ability to see how truly the term applies to themselves, but it is applied, liberally, by almost everyone. What do you think of when you picture Afghanistan? A desolate wasteland or foul-smelling nomads who lack the intelligence to better their lives? Perhaps the picture is that presented in Rambo 3, an extremely poor but proud people who would rather die than be subjugated. Whatever your idea, it is probably wrong. Not a large country, Afghanistan is peopled by the descendants of multiple nations and cultures, and it is impossible to label the country with any universally shared values, customs, or practices, although war is universally understood. The country has been at war almost continually since recorded history has begun, so perhaps they are the ones who are special. Humans possess an ability to adapt and learn far beyond that of other animals. It is natural that the Afghans represent ingenuity in warfare. America has learned over its tenure not to throw anything away. The Taliban, as well as regular citizens who resent foreign soldiers being on their land, turn the most benign items into weapons of death. Water bottles become pressure plates for setting off explosive devices. Dead AA batteries ran in series will still activate a blasting cap. An alternator from an abandoned wrecked vehicle will produce several hundred feet of wire to command detonate an IED. Ideas for creating death abound, and the lack of technology is a minor inconvenience. The Afghans have succeeded in producing a climate where soldiers not only have to worry about being attacked, but where every bit of rubbish and discolored spot on the road is suspect. Fortunately for NATO forces in Afghanistan, the tactics and SOP of the Taliban is subpar. Warfare is a chess game on a grand scale, with the goal rarely the toppling of a king, but to stay 50 moves ahead of your opponent. If the Afghans can wear down and consistently win small engagements against their enemies, then they eventually leave. After all, the Taliban cannot win in any other manner. They have watched our practices and adjusted tactics. However, they are only attempting to stay 1 or 2 moves ahead instead of 50. For example, Group A plants an IED in a road and sets an overwatch to see how Group B handles the situation. Group B sees the trap, sets a perimeter, investigates the device, disarms it, and moves on. Group A now knows 1. How far from the device Group B will stop, 2. A time frame for how long they will be sitting still, 3. Whether troops will get out of vehicles, 4. Defensive formations employed by Group B. Group A will now adjust their practices and set a visible hoax device to stop Group B while having emplaced several well-camouflaged IEDs where they suspect the vehicles will sit in their defensive posture. A good idea, but there is nothing to say that Group B cannot also adjust their SOP and overcome the adversity. This is how the Afghans think. Stay 2 or 3 steps ahead of NATO forces and keep them mentally fatigued. Their fault lies in not trying to be 50 moves ahead. Regardless of the nature of the situation, anything that is out of the ordinary must be investigated by a route clearance patrol. Every vehicle that travels on a road puts their faith in these soldiers to clear a path. Why not have a few men with shovels walk down the road and turn over a single patch of earth every few yards? 1 spade full of earth turned at every 3 yards is more than 1,500 discolored spots in 1 mile, each of which must be investigated by a route clearance patrol before traffic can be allowed down the route. There needn't be any IEDs at all. Each spot must still be investigated, and Group A could effectively neutralize Group B's ability to maneuver. A wire protruding from an empty water jug looks the same as a wire protruding from a water jug filled with homemade explosive. One actual weapon can be supplemented by dozens of fakes, causing mental fatigue and complacency. If you find 99 false indicators, you expect the 100th one to be false also, making it more likely that the 100th one will function effectively due to your enemy's complacency. Not only have you slowed their ability to function, you have multiplied your effectiveness. When in Iraq, I witnessed an entire brigade combat team come to a standstill for half an hour when the cavalry scouts in the lead saw several round metallic objects on the ground. The objects were in the mouth of a pass through impassable terrain, and the echelons of authority had to decide to circumvent the obstacle and add hours onto the movement to objective, or to breach and face possible attack from Overwatch, as well as the dangers presented from the possible minefield. The engineers were called to advance and discovered the objects were not mines, nor were they emplaced. It turned out to be the bottom of half a dozen brass casings from artillery shells that had lain there from previous Iraqi military training exercises. Though it was not a minefield or even a deliberate hoax, these brass casings stopped more than 3,000 troops from advancing. The Afghans have proven to be motivated and relentless. They were willing to work hard and possess ingenuity for making do with anything. Why then are they so short-sighted? Perhaps they are mired in the traditions of their past, coupled with a portion of the population being addicted to opium. The goal of the NATO forces is not to subjugate the population or to achieve an unconditional surrender, but to instill a stable government of the Afghans for the Afghans. But they do not want this, and they see us as a hostile force bent on the destruction of their traditions and way of life. Not the Taliban, all Afghans. Even the Russians did not try and destroy the country. The Afghans think themselves invincible, but how could they have resisted if Russia had decided to carpet bomb every major city in the country? This is why we will fail. Our goals are not to destroy and take charge, but to win the hearts and minds of the populace. This is a proposition that will fail every time it is attempted in every country around the world. Afghanistan is a lost cause, a collection of proud degenerates who are happy to make war on one another, whose pastimes are raping male children, beating their women, and farming poppies. They eschew change and foreign ideals, the epitome of ethnocentrism. Until politicians realize that force and not politics is the only way to effect change, Afghanistan will continue to be the way it has been for thousands of years. I'm not advocating that Afghanistan needs change, or for the hostile takeover of any nation, only stating that current efforts are impotent in the face of the country's many traditions and values. What is the causal effect of the nature of these people? Have there always been foreign powers in Afghanistan because of the nature of the Afghans? Or do they possess a nature that stems from there having always been foreign powers in Afghanistan? Perhaps it is time to let them have their country and accept that they are going to live in the manner they see appropriate.